Yeah, it's Rod Young here, New Zealand. This is just an update, day 17 of the lockdown here in New Zealand. This gentleman has got something to say.
Seeing anything similar to that, the US and China are at loggerheads, the US and Europe are at loggerheads. President Trump has absolutely no interest in doing anything multilateral, and even within Europe, as I'm sure you're aware, they are arguing about how to kind of allocate risks and allocate kind of sort of debt guarantees and the like across the region. So the reality is, to an extent, it's every country for themselves. And yes, there are,
every country for themselves. So if you want to research that, there it is there. So this is a quick video. New Zealand's in a good position. I mentioned that about $4 million in credit relative to the United States, which is $400,000 debt every person, and that's their net wealth is about $400,000 per citizen. So New Zealand basically debt-free on $4 million per capita. So we need to manage that, and if every country's for themselves, then obviously bringing our mayors together to discuss at a local level, to coordinate, and then through into a parliamentary level to discuss those things. They mentioned about a regional base where Australia and New Zealand work as a region, and then other regions in the globe. So we have an obligation. We're probably 10 or 100 times more important per citizen because we produce food, and so other countries rely on that food. My feeling is that gold and silver and thorium are the currencies, so we need to bring our currency based on a gold and silver standard immediately, and then start asking for gold and silver from around the world for our products. You might ask why. First of all, it'll create a boom within our country where we've got probably $20 trillion of crown minerals, including gold and silver. So that's something which is that would happen. I'm not going to get into that just at this stage, but what I'm saying is that we're in a time of crisis globally, and we can't just do nothing. We cannot be in fibrillation. We actually have to get out there and do 16-hour days, 7 days a week. But in doing that, it means that we can then realise in probably a generation, 20 years or 2 decades, so we come out in a way that we have lots of freehold houses, and we have a country that is as net wealth rather than the debt we have at the now. Currently, in the 1960s, we were 30% of GDP personal debt. We're up to 100% at the moment. So we've been beggared, absolutely beggared by the policies of debt. And where does that debt lie? So we have some interesting things with 14 banks overseas in Australia. So let's just see how this Australia-New Zealand relationship works. We're starting to see hints that 670,000 New Zealanders will be asked to leave Australia and come back to New Zealand. That's going to be something of interest. So I just share that with you. We're 17 days into this, and we're talking about 20 years, 2 decades for this to sort of come right. And so it's just so really, it's the crack of the starters 100-metre pistol. We haven't even started to run the first centimetre of 100 metres yet. So I'm just raising this today. What we need to do is to have a meeting in our local areas under our local authorities and our community boards. And if you don't have a community board, it's time to form one, and even if it's unofficial, the local government ministers call out to you in New Zealand, Nanaia Mahuta. All wards must have a community board and immediately have an election. That's a mandate that you can do under this, because we need to have that governance level just from a public health perspective and also a coordinating perspective. Simply just to provide a newsletter on a 3-day-a-week to the local people, and that's the most important thing. So I'm going to leave it there and upload this, but this is Rod Young here in South Waikato, and I'm just saying to you that work starts now. 16-hour days, 7 days a week for the next 20 years. Are you ready to help out? Because that's what's about to